I'm Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the Great District, the 11th Assembly District in the state of New York. I'm so honored and proud to partner with Community Watch with our great host, Bishop Andy Luter, who would bring you various elected officials to discuss their platform, who they are, so you could be able to know who are the great people that represent you in the different levels of government. It's an honor for me to partner with Community Watch to help you understand what's happening right here on Long Island, right here where you live in your community.
Well, hello, Andy C. Luter here, and I want to thank State Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre for making this platform available. We're so indebted to you, Sister Jean-Pierre, for your sponsorship of Community Watch. I am Andy C. Luter, who is your host for Community Watch, and we attempt from time to time to bring to you dynamic personalities here locally on Long Island who are impacting the quality of life here on Long Island. Now, with that said, I want to share with you Larry Montgomery, who is the owner and the publisher of The Village Press. The Village Press is one of the leading black periodicals that we have here on Long Island. More specifically, it is one of our leading African American newspapers. And so we're going to be spending the next several minutes talking about black journalism and some of the unique challenges that exist for those who want to bring quality black journalism to our Long Island area. With that said, let me welcome Larry Montgomery to our program today.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you so very much for being here. And as we get started, I want to kind of set the context for what you do, because black journalism and black newspapers here on Long Island is not a new or a novel idea. We think of persons like Delano Stewart. We think of publications like the New York Trend, like the Hempstead Times, and you're probably familiar with other publications that are either current or past that have been here on Long Island and have attempted to tell our story to our community.
Well, I've been around for probably 30 years, easy, in the business. And I started out with a friend of mine by the name of Gary Coley. And at that time, he was publishing the Community Journal. And I joined him, so we had a business relationship, and then I just kind of fell in love with publishing type of a thing. And we had a well-spread, well-read newspaper at that time in both Suffolk County and in Nassau County. And we were getting out free, even though it said subscribe in the corner there for $1.25 a week. But we were able to keep it going for about 20 years.
20 years.
So that was an accomplishment. But one of the challenges we've seen over the years and still face is not an appreciation for the black press.
Okay.
If I just said the press, if I just said the community press, there's a different perspective when they say it's a black press. People kind of, what are they talking about? Local gossip and so on and so on. But without the press, there is no democracy.
Okay.
Because democracy is hinged on the fact that the public gets enough information to make intelligent decisions. And this is what we need here on Long Island. While it is an island, kind of ish, the main newspaper is the Newsday. Newsday. Okay, they've been publishing for a number of years, and they are the local newspaper, and they shape the opinion of the communities. How we are viewed as black people is what they believe the greater community sees us as. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You think we're bad, they show us as bad people, so then we're bad. And without having our own voice, we don't have any method to counteract that kind of thing. And so it has always been our mission, desire, philosophy, is to create a platform whereas you get both sides, at least.
Good.
And we focus on getting the correct information. Sometimes it's tainted as to this agenda, that agenda. But we want to make the platform available. Needs to be available. It's almost like bread and water.
All right.
If you don't have your own information coming into your community or about your community, you're always subject to somebody else's agenda.
Sure.
And we just need to take hold of that and grab hold of it and say, look, we've got to support it for it to be viable. I mean, personally, all of my assets are tied up in the paper, and it's just because it's my passion to continue to make it available. And I would have to say, I think it's God's passion for me because I can't get out from under it.
Yeah. It's kind of how things work when you're on assignment, right?
And that's it. You can't avoid that. But I don't have a problem with that, one way or the other. But I do believe that it is important for us to get our message out, particularly now when we talk about the 2020 election.
Sure.
We all have our politicians, our favorite politicians for this reason, that reason. No one's perfect. Everyone has some skeletons in their closet, which is true. But we need to understand going forward, if you're the kind of person who can carry the mission, carry the banner the way we believe it should be carried. What we have now clearly is a departure from at least what we've experienced with Obama.
Sure. Oh, my goodness, yeah.
People can have their opinion about did he help the black people, did he not help the black people. His job was to be president.
And that he was, yes.
And that he was. And he represented well, he handled himself well, his family represented the country well. I mean, to have a record of 8 years in that office and not one scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, that says, if you just stay there and play golf all day, that says a lot. The president we have now, that's not the case. And we see that the atmosphere, the moral atmosphere in the country has changed, not only here, but globally.
Sure.
When people stand there, these leaders, other leaders will stand there and talk about him behind his back, I mean, that says a lot. And then, and I didn't want to get off into this, but the vindictiveness to say, look, I've got to clean house because of those who are not loyal. How do you define loyalty? Is it based on the truth, or is it just based on you as being the guy?
Sure.
So anyway, back to the black press here. I'm sorry. But we need to have information, and we need to grab hold of that and say, look, whether I agree with you or not, at least give me the facts. And then I can decide whether I want to continue to agree or I might change my mind. Okay, I let it out.
Okay, good. Let's kind of go back to your origins, because you talked about the community journal.
Yes.
And your passion, how you fell in love with journalism and have stuck with it ever since then. Now, monetizing that effort then compared to now, because the dynamics of advertising and marketing with the internet, with social media, has changed tremendously. How did you monetize the community journal, and how does that differ from how publications like yours have to survive now?
We were able to sell advertising. We weren't able to get grants because you're a newspaper, and the political environment behind that, when you get a grant, whoever gave it to you, they have an agenda. And if you're not with that agenda, you got a problem. Now, with the advent of the internet, it's more of I can get news from anybody, anywhere, at any time for free, especially on Facebook. The problem with that is there's no validation of that news.
Accountability, yeah.
There's no accountability.
Yeah.
And additionally, with you look at the larger press, the NBC, the CNN, and whatever, they still have an agenda. And they can pick and choose when they want to put out and when they don't want to put out. And when you're getting flooded with all this information, do I have on my, how do you call it, with bookmarks, black press? No, I don't. Why? Oh, well, they're going to ask me for money. They're going to ask me for a subscription.
Oh, okay.
And I can get Newsday for $3 a month or $4 a month. But 5 years ago, I was paying $10 a month. And that money that they got 5 years ago is still there. So I can afford to charge you $3 a month now.
Okay.
In the black press, to survive, if I ask for $1 a week, Oh my God! Oh. What are you trying to get rich? And I say that not to be disparaging, but that's a fact that we have to face.
Mm-hmm.
People have to see the value before they let go of their dollars. And in this particular market, you have to have a following. So yes, we give it away. It's free. It's online. But we need to have those who are committed to click the box, I like, and share.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might glance at one of the articles, you might read one of the articles or whatever, but if you don't click and share or comment, it's like you weren't there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and no one can get that feedback as to, well, I felt this way about it, I didn't feel this way about it, or whatever. You can improve, you can, you know, whatever, you know, you got to get feedback. So I guess the long and short of it is we as a community, we must buy into the fact that we need our own information, and then that we need to support it. Same thing with politics.
Mm-hmm.
We need politicians. We have a number to choose from, but if we don't support them, at the end of the day, when they go home or they get up to go to work, they don't remember us. They remember the guy who's knocking on the door every day, the guy who's putting $1 in their campaign, $2 or whatever in their campaign. Those are the people they remember. You know, we say, oh, well, you're supposed to do the right thing and represent us.
Don't always happen that way.
Right, they're supposed to, but that ain't the way it is in the reality. And we all know that. But we kind of like stuck. For them, it's okay. For us, well, you know, you're always suspect, always a side-eye type of a thing. And I didn't come here to be a mean guy. But we need to address that.
Okay.
With our community, we really need to address that. Those things are important.
Now you've mentioned that your publication is totally online.
Totally online,
And
right.
I have known you long enough to remember when you actually had a
Hard copy. Yeah.
and you were publishing that with some of the software. And of course, publishing has changed tremendously
Yes.
from the time when you used to block and set and have to manually put together that paper with blue sheets with blue line,
cut and
and
paste.
paste, right?
Yeah.
And now everything is done online. So kind of give us a historical overview, Brother Montgomery, of where you have come from. What was involved in producing a newspaper initially compared to what you're doing now?
I remember, I said being with the Community Journal was my first opportunity to be with the paper. But before that,
Okay.
I was with a local, I was with the NAACP back in the early 70s. And there was a gentleman there who put out on a weekly basis a newsletter, not a newspaper, but a newsletter. And it was the Lakeview Times or whatever it was, but it was in Lakeview. And he had just gotten this machine. It was like amazing. You could actually put information in and it would print out.
Print out for you. Yeah.
Print it out for you.
As a newsletter.
As a newsletter.
Newsletter format.
Yeah, because it had the 8.5 by 11, you know, setup. But then, fast forward to the Community Journal, we used to have the whiteboard stuck on the wall, and then you would type out what it is you wanted to put in there, and you would cut it out, and then you would tape it on there, paste it on there, and it looked like a newspaper, and then we'd take it to the publisher, and he'd copy and print it out. Just go. Now, it's very simple. Just on Word or a Word document, hit it, and then upload it to the website. You know, and do a little bit with it, but it's very different.
Okay.
Very different. And, you know, it is not easy. It's still, you know, it's a challenge, you know, to get it right and make it look nice, but it's a heck of a lot different than it was back then.
So you're joining a tradition that is at least 100 years old in this country. When you talk
Yes.
about black newspapers, you can talk about the LA Sentinel in Los Angeles. You can talk about the Chicago Defendant that broke the story of Emmett Till, that brought that to our attention in 1955. And of course, we have the Amsterdam News that has been a mainstay. As you see yourself a part of that tradition, what is it that you're trying to do for Long Island that those papers have done for Harlem, for Chicago, for LA? Now, those are much larger markets, and this is a much smaller market, but it is the same need, the same attitudinal approach of bringing vital information to a community that is in desperate need of that.
the business model has to be franchisable, for example.
Okay.
Has to be a standard where your particular market. There was a time when having the hard copy in your hand was what was required, and it's still something that's required today.
Okay.
Because most of the readers are older, and they are comfortable on Sunday morning to pick up the paper and open it up. And so, I've had people who've had copies of the paper for months on one particular issue because I'm going to do this. I'm going to read whatever it
get
is.
to it, right.
But they had that piece of paper to hang on to, and that's fine. And our plan now is to get back to that. Also have the digital, so you can go online. Also have radio, and also have television or podcasts or whatever. So at every juncture, you can touch and feel that information that's relevant to you. That's where we want to be. We want to be a full-service resource to the community. And I say that because I start back before. It needs our models going forward for the press to survive has to be able to be something I can put here, even though it's a small community.
Sure.
But when we come together as a global, where every little community is feeding into, like a CNN type of a thing, we can see up front the trends. Because when laws change in one state, one city, everybody sits back and looks and say, well, how's it working there? We talk about the stop and frisk with Mayor Bloomberg.
Right.
It got out of hand. Now, Bloomberg is taking the heat for it. But the real person that was responsible for was the chief of police then, Kelly. He's the one that got the reports every day. He's the one who saw the officers out there and what they were doing. He's the one that didn't come back and say, boss, this is a problem. The community got up and said, this is a problem. And the mayor's like, I got 8 million people here. What are you talking about? I think at the beginning of that whole situation, the murder rate was about 6,000 a year. When they implemented it, after the 12 years, it was down to 3,000 a year. Okay, and I'm talking about from the black community's perspective, so it's a significant decline.
Yeah.
The problem is the number of people who are harassed by it hit 5.8 million people in 12 years. I mean, that was the peak. That's more people than we had. So some people were hitting 2 or 3 times being stopped and frisked. Yes, that's a problem. Bloomberg has explained, it's a mistake and whatever. And so, boom, all right, he learned something. First off, he didn't have to say anything about that. We could rattle our drums and be mad at whatever. He didn't have to take the weight, and he sure enough didn't have to apologize. He could have blamed anybody else. And nobody would have anything to hold against him. And I only say that because the man that we have there now, if you work for him and he thinks you're disloyal, so now what do you think he's going to do to the greater public when he sees, well, you folks are getting unruly? He's already talked about making it illegal to protest. Now, what options do you have? I can talk at home. I can't talk in the street about the issues that I have with your policies.
Right.
This is what the press is there for, to make sure that people understand and have this information in front of them so they know how to conduct themselves. I'm not going to protest because I know it's against the law. Okay, so we'll do a letter writing contest. Campaign.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Sure.
Phone call, whatever. But I wouldn't have known that if no one told me about that.
Sure. One of the things that I want to talk to Brother Montgomery about is his own activism. And I'm going to ask our technician, our engineer, if he would cue up a video that we have prepared that shows Brother Montgomery at work talking about one of his favorite topics. And then we'll be back to close out this conversation.
Good evening. This is Larry Montgomery, the publisher of the Village Press newspaper. You can find us online at the villagepress.online. That's www.thevillagepress.online. This week our editorial commentary is going to focus on how voter suppression works and provide some information on a topic that has been bantered around over the last few weeks concerning the presidential election process for this year. The topic will cover democracy, capitalism, socialism, and communism. And what I'm going to do is only focus on giving a brief understanding of each of those areas so we can, in our decision-making process, understand what we're talking about when someone says, oh, so-and-so was a socialist, so-and-so was a...
Well, again, friends, I am Andy C. Luter, and you are watching Community Watch. This is a weekly television program that we're bringing to you with the help of State Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. My guest today is Larry Montgomery, and he is the owner and the publisher of the Village Press, which is an African-American newspaper right here on Long Island. Brother Montgomery, when you look each week at what it is that our community needs to know, what are some of the guiding principles that motivate and inform the selection of content that you decide to use every week? What impacts the selection of stories that you decide needs to be shared with the African American community?
That's a great question, because it's a challenge every week.
Sure.
There's so much information out there that we need to share amongst ourselves, particularly, and I always look for this first, are those stories coming out of Africa, because there's so much happening over there that we don't know of. I tell you, really, I, at 68 years old, used to think only things in Africa were huts and trees.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a shame. That's just a shame. Until, you start Googling things, and then suddenly there's a clip here and there on the news or whatever. And so when you look at that, what's happening there, that's our homeland. I may have never been there, but in a pinch, where else can I go? I mean, it's got no. I go to Harlem. That's just like being here. Then it's the other international countries and how they view us and the things they're doing. One of the things recently is with China and their commitment to having as much business activity. They're talking about bringing billions of their people into Africa. Now, why would that be? Must be something over there important, right? And what kind of commitment are you making to say, now we are planning to get that done? So these things are important. We got that information. We have to have from the national stage things. Again, we talk about the president, so on and so forth, and Congress and how they're acting. You got to have the region, the state. You got to bring it all the way down. So yes, it's a community-based newspaper, but I can't limit myself to just providing only stories of, well, Johnny hit the baseball, 2 feet this week. It's always nice and always try to do that. But the information that we need to continue to survive in this country is the perspective. You got to come from the top all the way down. And so that's the biggest challenge.
Okay, and let me kind of turn in this direction, because one of the things that I know is that every week I know that I'm going to hear from Larry Montgomery, and I apologize for not being a bit more attentive, but what I'm pointing to is the need for this to be a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Because this is not a solo act, and this is not something that you can do for yourself. And so share with our audience how they can be helpful in terms of making contributions to this effort. And I'm not talking so much about financial contributions. I'm talking about writers and reporters and people who can do illustrations, the components of publishing. Again, it can't be done by a single person. And so what do we as a community need to do to be more helpful in this area, to make sure that an enterprise like what you have does not fade and does not go away, but it's here 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we still have a Village Press publication?
I want to say I love and encourage you to share information with me. You can send it to me on Facebook, email. We have a Facebook page for the Village Press, our website. You can contact us through there, thevillagepress.online. You can send it directly to me at montgomerybusiness@hotmail.com. I usually review my Facebook page every day, and I always get stuff from certain people. We have a number of columnists, not as many as I would like, because I'd like to have someone with expertise in all areas, because we can share information.
Sure.
And it's definitely an opportunity to do business as far as, well, people don't know you until they know you. And we have a tendency of those people who have treated us well and have shown themselves professionally, even if they don't know everything, but they've shown themselves a professional, to go to them, or to want to go to them. And this is a platform to get that out there, to share what you know, and to receive back, hopefully people will say, look, yeah, I'm going to go talk to Joe, because he was talking about auto mechanics, it's the guy I'm going to go to. And that's how our community can grow. If we're always looking outside the community, because that's where we see our experts at, then that's all our dollars are going outside of the community.
And I don't want to date this particular recording, but tell us, as you look over the landscape of our community, what are the issues that we need to be most concerned about over the next several months?
Next several months will clearly be the election, the presidential election, our representatives. We as a community need to first understand that we have to be proactive in finding out and understanding their platforms, and then secondly, be prepared to support them, not only verbally but also financially. I don't care if it's 50 cents. We can send something to that candidate of our choice. And while 50 cents doesn't seem like it makes a big difference, you can still hold in front of them, I supported you, fully to my extent. And hopefully get a response, or it doesn't have to get to that kind of thing, but be comfortable in saying that I'm not just here with my hat in my hand. I've done something, I've done the right thing, I want you to do the right thing. So that is paramount right now with us, because the atmosphere in the country is one of a demoralized country. I mean, we have our issues. Yeah, black and white and all that kind of stuff. That's a big issue. We got to work on that every day. But that don't mean it's okay to be nasty to people.
Sure.
Or to be mean to people.
Great. Well, listen, friends, I'm Andy C. Luter, and for the last several minutes, you've been watching and listening to Community Watch, sponsored by State Assembly person Kimberly John Pierre. I am your host. My guest today has been Larry Montgomery from the Village Press, African-American newspaper right here on Long Island. Listen, thank you again for your viewership, and I want to take you now back to State Assemblywoman Kimberly John Pierre, thanking her again for her support, and thanking you for tuning in and watching today.
Hi, I'm Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre, and I represent the 11th Assembly District. I hope you had a great time watching Community Watch, and I hope you were able to have a deeper understanding of the various elected officials and know who they are, and got a chance to meet them throughout the different segments of shows with our great host, Bishop Andy Luter. Keep looking out for your local elected officials and stay informed.